This week on Christian World News.
On Sunday, my mother became the first Christian killed in the Gaza war.
A son mourns his mother's loss as Gaza's Christians wait out the war. Plus, in West Africa, an Ebola outbreak takes hundreds of lives, and 2 infected American missionaries are rushed home for treatment. And 9 months ago, a super typhoon blew away their homes, businesses, even their families. But a Christian ministry that's been on the ground since day one is still blessing the people of the Philippines. Welcome to Christian World News, everyone. I'm Wendy Griffith. Well, today we want to take you inside the Gaza Strip. The war between Israel and Hamas is entering now its 4th week. Israel's goal is to wipe out the network of tunnels Hamas uses to carry out attacks inside the Jewish state. It's also targeting the terror group's stockpiles of weapons and rockets. The operation has taken a toll on Gaza's civilian population, including its Christians. My Christian World News co-anchor George Thomas went to Gaza for a closer look at what's going on.
Wendy, weeks into Israel's offensive against Hamas militants here on the Gaza Strip, Gazans are very war-weary. They're tired. They are just hoping and praying that this conflict will come to an end very quickly. One particular group of folks you rarely hear about in the mainstream media are the Christians of Gaza. Yes, there are Christians here, and they represent a very tiny percentage of the overall population. And during this offensive, they have suffered their first fatality. Hamas's military chief says his fighters are eager for death and vowed to keep fighting until the 7-year blockade of the Strip was lifted. This as Israel's sea, land and air offensive continues to strike at key Hamas-controlled centers, including a hit on Gaza's only power plant, leaving most of the city without electricity. Meanwhile, in some of the hardest hit areas of the city,
I can still smell her. This is her blood-soaked clothes. This is a piece of her burned hair.
Gazans are struggling to cope with the devastation. 3 days after an Israeli airstrike killed his 60-year-old mother and destroyed their home, Antoine Ayad is back home to what's left of it, searching through rubble, trying to salvage what he can.
On Sunday, my mother became the first Christian killed in the Gaza war.
Ayad says his mother was on her way to church carrying this cross in her hand when a missile struck their house.
The wall collapsed on her body right over there and severed her legs. In this corner, my brother was severely injured and my father was on the roof, but thank God he survived.
Antoine told CBN News he is not quite sure why the Israelis targeted his home, but the suspicions are that there was a senior Hamas leader in the neighborhood. Antoine wouldn't confirm nor deny this possibility on camera, but off camera, he told CBN News that he's concerned about the direction of his tiny city on the Mediterranean that once was home to a thriving Christian community. Now less than 2,000 Christians live on the Strip. The majority are Sunni Muslims. For now, though, the skies over Gaza City are once again filled with smoke as Israel intensifies its offensive here in the Palestinian territory.
George has just returned from Gaza and joins us now from our Jerusalem bureau. George, great reporting. You have literally been right in the action, dodging bombs falling through the air. What has it been like for you?
There's military action taking place. You've got sometimes 5, 10, 20, 40 rockets going off from the Gaza Strip launched by Hamas into Israeli territory. Then you've got you've got artillery shell from the sea. You've got missiles coming in from the air. You've got a land invasion. So clearly this is a hot zone.
Well, George, I think a lot of our viewers will be surprised to learn that there are Christians in Gaza. What can you tell us about them?
Wendy, there are between 1,500 to 2,000 Christians. The majority of them, by the way, Wendy, are of the Greek Orthodox persuasion. There's a significant Catholic population as well. And then you've got the tiny evangelical believers. Most of them are Baptist believers, but people have written to me on Facebook as well as on Twitter saying, I had no idea that Gaza had Christians, but they do. There's 15 to 2,000 of them. and in a population of about 1.7 to 1.8 million Sunni Muslim.
Well, George, they live under the rule of the radical Islamic Hamas terrorist group. Do they suffer persecution because of their faith?
They do, because they realize that, when it comes to living in a sea of Muslims, you have to adhere to the Islamic rules that, in essence, the jurisprudence in the territory. And so they cannot, for example, if a Muslim wants to convert to Christianity, that is forbidden. It is haram, as they say in Arabic. It is forbidden. And so they have to be very, very careful. And they are constantly aware that it's a small community. And so they know that they have to be very careful about what they say, about any attempts to evangelize, share the gospel in public or even privately, not knowing who exactly they're sharing it with. Is it a Hamas operative or an Islamic Jihad operative? So they have to be very careful.
Well, we know that some of the Christians in Gaza have not been immune to the war, and many have been directly impacted. How is the war affecting them, and how are they helping their community?
Look, when you are such a small minority, 1,500 to 2,000, it's affecting everyone, Christians as well as Muslims. So, clearly I was talking to a Christian believer who said last week that she got a call from the Israeli army. You have 5 to 10 minutes to get out of your housing complex. They were not directly going to hit her house, but the neighborhood, the adjacent building. And so they called her up and said, you need to get out. And so within about 5-10 minutes, she was able to get whatever she could grab, her suitcase, a few belongings, and they ran out of the building. Fortunately, nothing happened to her apartment complex, but the apartment right next to it was in essence destroyed. But this is what they're having to deal with, not just the Muslims, but also the Christians. They deal with this every day.
That was George Thomas reporting from Jerusalem. Well, turning now to West Africa, where the outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus is getting worse. Health officials are warning travelers not to visit the 3 hardest hit countries. That as the U.S. flies home 2 American missionaries infected with the virus while serving in Liberia. Caitlin Burke reports.
It's the worst Ebola outbreak in history. The virus is now being blamed for more than 700 deaths in 4 West African countries, and it shows no signs of coming under control. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Thursday warned Americans to avoid non-essential travel to Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone.
Unfortunately, these countries don't have the infrastructure to handle the response, and moreover, they don't have any experience with these kind of outbreaks in the past.
American missionaries Nancy Wrightball and Dr. Kent Brantley were flown home to the U.S. to be treated. They were serving on a joint team in Liberia with Samaritan's Purse and Christian missions organization SIM. Wrightball is in stable but serious condition and is receiving an experimental drug.
The Ebola virus, in terms of mortality rate, right now is at about 64%, and so that's good news for us. We feel like Mom has a chance.
Franklin Graham is the CEO of Samaritan's Purse. He gave an update on Dr. Brantley.
He's fighting for his life. It's a very difficult day for him, and we just ask everybody who's watching if they will pray.
Those who know Dr. Brantley say he put his life on the line for one reason.
This is a guy who thinks that people should do more than just give lip service when they say they're going to follow Jesus.
Meanwhile, Liberian Christians are gathering for a time they're calling sackcloth and ashes, asking God to halt the spread of Ebola in their country. 500 church leaders are coming together in the capital city of Monrovia for 3 days of fasting and prayer. Pastor Emery David of Triumphant Christian Church told us Christians are trusting God for a miracle.
Well, we want this Ebola lifted. If it is an error, a sin that we have committed, we want God to forgive the church, the government, the nation, and heal the land.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
And you can find more about the Liberian Church's campaign of prayer and fasting on Gary Lane's blog. It's called The Global Lane, and that's at cbnnews.com. Well, the Christian woman sentenced to death in Sudan for refusing to renounce her faith is now safely home in the United States. Miriam Ibrahim and her family arrived in New Hampshire this week. They were met with singing and celebration. Take a listen. Miriam's life has been a whirlwind this last week, from escaping Sudan to meeting the Pope in Rome. She finally arrived in the U.S., where her husband Daniel is a citizen. She made the journey with Daniel and their 2 young children, one of whom she gave birth to while shackled in prison. Her first stop in the U.S. was a layover in Philadelphia, where she met privately with the mayor. He told CBN News about her well-being.
She is a tremendously strong woman. That her faith gives her, I would say, almost a certain aura about her. The ordeal that she and her family have been through to come to this city of faith, and I talked about William Penn and the founding of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, a city founded on the tenets of religious freedom and tolerance and openness and the ability to practice your faith. Both of them smiled.
So glad she's safe. Ibrahim was sentenced to death but released after an international outcry for her freedom. The Sudanese government claimed she abandoned Islam when she married her Christian husband. Miriam said she's always been a Christian. Coming up, 4 ministers murdered for their faith, why Russia-backed rebels in Ukraine see evangelicals as the enemy.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Inside every child is a hero, a leader, a friend to others, someone who helps out, who does the right thing, who dreams of what they can be, but they still need our help.
What should I do? What should I say? How should I feel?
That's where Superbook comes in. It provides moral and spiritual truths through situations children can relate to, teaching God's Word to the children you love. Join the Superbook DVD Club and receive Superbook's newest episodes as they're available, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25. Get Superbook today and watch the miracles happen.
Welcome back. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry highlighted the plight of American pastor Saeed Abedini this week as he presented the State Department's annual report on international religious freedom. Kerry said, quote, in Iran, U.S. Iranian citizen Pastor Saeed Abedini remains imprisoned. The Iranian authorities sentenced him to 8 years behind bars simply because of his religious beliefs. We will continue to call for his release, and we will continue to work for it. Jay Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice says they're thankful for Kerry's commitment to work for Abedini's release. U.S. President Obama moved to fill the post of Ambassador for International Religious Freedom this week. He nominated Rabbi David Saperstein. Saperstein has spent his career in Washington focusing on social justice and religious freedom issues as an activist in the liberal reform branch of Judaism. Some religious freedom advocates are applauding the choice. National Association of Evangelicals President Leith Anderson said Saperstein will be a strong advocate and voice for religious freedom around the world. But not everyone is pleased. Saperstein is critical of the Supreme Court's Hobby Lobby decision, which allowed some companies to opt out of paying for contraception under Obamacare for religious reasons. In a statement, the Catholic Association said, quote, Saperstein favors fining family business owners for their religious beliefs and forcing Americans into complicity with abortion. The ambassador for religious freedom monitors and speaks out on religious freedom abuses worldwide. The State Department post was created by Congress back in 1998, and if he's confirmed by the Senate, Rabbi Saperstein will be the first non-Christian to hold the job. There are disturbing reports of persecution against evangelical Christians in portions of Ukraine controlled by separatist rebels, including the murder of 4 Christian workers. CBN's Ephraim Graham spoke with Sergei Rakuba of Russian Ministries about why this happened and who was behind it.
Sergei, tell us about this tragic incident with the ministers a few weeks back. What happened?
The town of Slavyansk in eastern Ukraine was under the siege of these pro-Russian separatists. Their militants, a group of armed guys, came into the church right during the Sunday morning worship service. They spotted these young Christian leaders, dragged them out of the church, threw them in their truck, and drove away into an unknown location. A few weeks later, they found this massive grave, so that these young people, they were executed right there on that spot.
Sergei, why were these ministers killed? Was it because of their faith, or is there some other reason?
They want to establish Orthodox Christianity in their area. And every Protestant evangelical is their enemy. They create so much pressure, even publicly executing these young Christian leaders, so that they want to set lots of fear in the evangelical community. And it happened in many other places. We know that pastors were abducted. There are a couple of still Christian leaders are still missing. Buildings were seized.
How is this all related to the tension between Russia and Ukraine?
Ukraine is a lot more open to any other opportunity, if you can say, and trying to follow the more civilized and more open way of human rights and freedom, if we can, general freedom for human rights. So that's why, when Russia is supporting this pro-Russian separatist movement in eastern Ukraine, and they believe that they are fighting for their Orthodox principles, values, and ideology, believing that they're fighting against the European or world immoral influence that Ukraine, unfortunately, signing that agreement with the European Union, is letting into the area.
I understand a friend of yours is among the Christians who've been persecuted. Tell me what happened.
2 days ago, he was stopped on his way when he was on his way to home, dragged out of his car. They found some notes in his notebook so that he belongs to the local church, and found some other evidences that they thought, that he's connected with foreign religious group or something else. And they, even wanted to shot him. So God miraculously saved him from that.
What's your ministry doing to help the people of eastern Ukraine?
We're doing anything possible. We deliver hundreds and thousands of food packs to these people that are in a terrible need there for immediate assistance. But also we mobilize all possible resources to create counseling ministry to help these people to overcome that tragedy. Absolutely. And through our iCare program that you can learn more about going on our website, which is www.russian-ministries.org, where you can learn more about how you can get involved.
Sergei Rakuba of Russian Ministries, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Ephraim.
Up next, keeping faith with the victims of Typhoon Haiyan. How a Christian ministry is still working to help survivors 9 months after the storm devastated the Philippines.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
CBNnews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, New York.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore.
CBNnews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see.
I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
Embassy in Washington, Eric Stakelbeck, CBN News.
The source for your news, CBNnews.com.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Last November, Super Typhoon Haiyan hit the Philippines, claiming thousands of lives and causing massive destruction. CBN disaster relief teams were among the first on the ground to help. Today, 9 months later, CBN teams are still there, building homes, schools, and helping survivors rebuild their lives. Our CBN Asia correspondent Lucille Tolucin reports from the Philippines.
10-year-old Rodrigo looks forward to school every day because here, not only can he study, but he also gets a break from babysitting his younger siblings. His father regrets he was unable to save Rodrigo's mother and newborn brother when Typhoon Haiyan struck.
My wife just gave birth and she was too weak to evacuate. We were swept away by the raging flood waters. I was able to cling to a piece of wood, but she and our baby did not make it.
Their house demolished by the storm. They endured months of intense heat and monsoon flood waters living in a tent.
We had to stay on top of the bed because the water came in and flooded the floor. Because of this, my children easily got sick.
Rolando's family is among the more than 800,000 families left homeless by Haiyan. They stick it out in cramped bunkhouses and tents while waiting for the permanent houses that the government promised to build within 2 years. CBN responded to bring them more immediate relief. CBN Philippine Director Peter Kairos recently turned over additional houses to typhoon survivors in the affected areas. Rodrigo was there to receive his family's new home.
I like our new house. It's more fun to play inside because it is bigger and it's not hot.
Well, the help of CBN in Operation Base is so important for me because a home is one of the basic needs. So I feel this will really help uplift their how they feel and to remove even the bad memories of what happened to them, especially the children. So thank you so much for your commitment, for your love, and for your generosity.
Other organizations like All Hands and Pinoy Relief have also joined CBN in building more houses and much-needed classrooms in remote islands.
The island of Tubaba is only a 20-minute boat ride from the town proper. But sad to say, 8 months after Haiyan struck, all the schools in the area that were knocked down by the typhoon still remain untouched.
134 students of San Pedro Elementary School took shifts to use the only classroom left with a roof.
We were given tents, but the tents got blown down by strong winds and rain. We want our real classrooms back. We always prayed, Lord, please make them find us, because most of the help was given to the mainland. The islands were neglected.
Erlinda is overjoyed CBN found them. And with the help of Pinoy Relief, their school now has more classrooms.
It's answered prayer. Thank you very much. May the Lord bless you more as you help more people in need.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Tacloban, Philippines.
Thanks, Lucille. And to learn how you can partner with CBN Disaster Relief, check out the webpage. You can find it at cbnnews.com. We'll be right back.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
We all want to live in the favor and anointing of God. We want His wisdom to solve problems and His provision for all we need. The Bible tells us the Lord has put eternity in our hearts. Each of us wants the certainty of heaven, to know our lives have purpose and that we are playing a vital role in accomplishing His plan for all mankind.
In Pat and Gordon Robertson's latest DVD teaching, Living Under God's Blessing, you'll discover how to receive wisdom to solve today's problems, the keys to provision for meeting all your needs, and how you can be a part of His plan for the world today. Call now to receive Living Under God's Blessing, featuring the 3-time Emmy-nominated series, Made in Israel.
May God bless you, and may you enjoy and live under the blessing of the Lord always.
Living Under God's Blessing, available now.
The United States government says it's sending an additional $378 million in aid to people in war-torn Syria. Ongoing fighting there has resulted in great suffering for those inside and outside the country. Some Syrians who fled the country for neighboring Lebanon are continuing to receive relief thanks to CBN. Partnering with American Christians and churches, CBN Disaster Relief paid to ship a container filled with much-needed items to Lebanon. CBN partner Bush Bell Consultants worked with a church in Zaleh, Lebanon, to distribute clothing, bedding, vitamins, and pasta to Syrian refugees in the Bekaa Valley.
We have been very blessed to be able to partner with CBN. We are here to help the people in need, who are like us, who all of a sudden have lost everything and run away with the clothing on their backs only. We have been very active and we are committed to continue.
The boxed items were given to Christian families at a church. Muslims received theirs at a nearby refugee camp. CBN has been helping Syrian refugees throughout the region for more than 2 years now. So much going on in the world. We appreciate your prayers. Thanks for joining us. From all of us here, goodbye and God bless you.